You may or may not be ready to buy a home. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 things that you really should know before you buy.
My advice to all young people, never buy a home, ever. Till you're super wealthy, then you buy a home. Till then, invest in yourself, invest in your business, and invest in real estate to cash flows. Now, the audience is going to say, but where am I going to live? You're going to rent. You're going to rent where you live, and you're going to take the money that you would normally use to buy a house, and you're going to use that to build yourself, build your business, or invest in other real estate that pays you income. People should use the place they live, pay for the use of the place, take all the other money, invest in yourself. That's an asset. Can't steal it from me, can't be depreciated. Invest in the business, much better return investing in my business than in a house. I can make 100% of my money in a year. I'll never make that on a house. In any market, that will never happen. And the third thing people should invest in is real estate that has cash flow and tenants in the properties. That comes with the maximum number of tax benefits, passive income that people need forever, and big depreciation, as well as long-term appreciation.
You should not buy a home, likely because you don't have the wealth to sacrifice losing the cash flow potential that it takes to own a home. So what you need to focus on is where properties can be cash flowing. Those are investment properties, or if you have a house that you live in, but you're going to rent out a portion of the house, that is a cash flowing real estate property. It's really more of an investment property. But to take such a big portion of your net worth and put it into a primary residence to where this is a use asset, not a true investment asset, you are not going to yield the same benefit of that as you could if you were to do something else with those dollars, such as invest it in your business, invest it in the stock market, invest it in your education, even that could yield a much bigger return than what you could earn from appreciation on a home. Let's see what some of the comments say. Most rent is a monthly mortgage. While that's a pretty common point that a lot of people like to make, what's not being factored in is all the hidden costs that goes into owning a home, such as your property taxes, your maintenance, your big capital expenses. If something, major breaks, like if you need a new roof or you need a new furnace, those are huge expenses that you would not ever have anything like that if you were in a rental, whereas if you own the home, you are liable for all those things. So hidden expenses is a main factor in this rent versus buy comparison, but rent is more than a mortgage. Don't be misled by that, guys. In my country, people that bought a house 10 years ago are now millionaires because of the price increases of homes. Yeah, while that's true, we have had an incredible period of time where homes have really outpaced most other inflation. That is not typical for real estate. In fact, real estate is known to only slightly outpace the normal economic rate of inflation. Most economists say that you can reasonably expect between 3 to 5% per year in real estate appreciation. But what you really can't always count on is that it's going to be consistent. Just like any form of investing, there's risk with investing in real estate, and real estate is not guaranteed to go up. So if you're going to count on your real estate appreciating, then you also have to factor in all the other hidden costs that you're going to have with owning the real estate. Make it to the end of this video. I'm going to give you guys a great breakdown of my analysis between renting versus buying. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of this video for that. This guy rents houses. What he is advocating for is that people think about their businesses first, and what he considers a business that everybody can get into is rental real estate. So instead of focusing on buying a primary residence, why don't you focus on buying a residence that you can house hack? In your area, you can find like a multifamily home. Buy that, live in a part of it, and then rent out the rest of it so that you can have an investment property that literally pays off your mortgage for you. That is a phenomenal thing to do. I know he would strongly advocate that as well as I would. He's not talking with you, he's talking with young guys who have $100,000 in the bank. Well, he's actually giving advice for everyone, because you shouldn't be buying a house unless you have a down payment of, at least 10%, or maybe, most people would say have 20%. So you're going to need some cash. Plus you need a sizable emergency fund, and you need a little bit of a home sinking fund that will cover if you move in and immediately you need to replace an appliance, or you have a plumbing repair, or you need a new roof. Guys, these things cost major amounts of money, and it's very irresponsible to move into a new home, sink all of your money into the down payment, and then be cash poor, and then you're going to be house poor. So, you're going to need some money to be even in this consideration to buy a home. And if you are, the argument here is that you can yield better results either buying an investment property and then moving into it and renting out the rest, or buying a full-blown 100% dedicated rental property, or invest it in starting a business, or invest it in the stock market. Build up your wealth, and then once you've accumulated a good deal of other investments and wealth that generate cash flow, then you can talk about buying a single family home or a primary residence. Because I think the point of this message is that you really shouldn't be focused so much on buying a home when you don't have other avenues of building wealth. So focus on building wealth, and then consider real estate as a part of that wealth. And, when it all said and done, you don't really want your real estate to be that big of a pie of your total wealth. You want it to be, very mixed and, maybe 50-50, but even going to 50% is quite a lot if all of that 50% is in your primary home.
Said a home is a terrible investment.
It is a terrible investment. Doesn't cash flow. You don't get big tax write-offs because of it. You have no leverage. You're living in it. You're paying for it. You never own it. Even when the loan's paid, you don't own it.
Really?
No, you still got to pay property taxes. You still got to insure it. Still got to maintain it. If you just break it down and don't become emotional, because people get emotional about their house. This is my house. It ain't your house. You're a partner in this house with the state.
Your recommendation to a normal family would be to rent?
Never buy a house. Rent where you live. Take all your money and invest in properties that cash flow. Okay. I'm not saying don't own real estate. I'm saying live in a house and pay rent. Take all the money that you would have spent on that house and invest in real estate that cash flows, that pays you every month. Could be retail, storage, apartment buildings like we invest in. Could be land. If you're a farmer or a rancher and you know how to get cows to cash flow, then do that.
The best advice I'm hearing here is that don't get overly emotional. Don't get swept up in the excitement of picking out and designing and building, or don't get overly sold on the idea of moving into your dream home, or building this picture around what living in your own home would change your life and how perfect it would make it. Because guys, literally, there's not a lot of difference between living in a home you have a mortgage on versus living in the same home that you pay rent on. A lot of the things feel exactly the same, other than if something breaks or you need to repair something. As a homeowner, that's on you to fix, versus as a renter, 9 times out of 10, those are going to be things that the landlord is going to have to replace or repair. Also, when you get overly emotional, you don't make the best of decisions. Can't really think clearly, overestimate how much you like something or how perfect it is, when in actuality, you may just be building it up to be something more than it really is. And then you buy the home and move into it, and then a year or 3 years later, you're like, oh man, I really don't love that as much as I thought I did. And then now you own this property, and then if you actually want to get out of it, it's going to cost you money to sell it. So it's always good to try to keep your emotions as tampered down as possible when you're purchasing an investment property or a home or an asset or something of this sizable value. Try to keep your emotions in check. He also mentions that you don't really ever own a home. Even if you don't have a mortgage on it, why don't you really own the home? You're still going to have this connection to your state or your local tax assessor's office for what we call property taxes. And those taxes are considered a liability against your home, meaning if you don't pay them, they can actually levy your home and you can lose it just for not paying your property taxes. So what that actually means is that you will be forever forced to pay these extra taxes, and you don't actually ever own it free and clear. Yeah, you technically are partnering with the bank to own your home, but you don't really own it. You are tied to this financial asset and this partnership with the bank. And it's kind of just a misnomer to say you own your home, even though it's generally considered owning your home with a mortgage. It is a little bit more nuanced than that. Let's see what some of the comments have to say. Mortgages don't go up, but rent goes up every year. It's actually not true. Rent doesn't go up necessarily every year, and it is also typically negotiable. I would always recommend picking your landlord as best as you can. Try not to go with those big mega nationwide companies, especially if it's like a publicly traded rental company. You're probably not going to get the best service out of those. But if you can find a mom and pop landlord or an individual landlord, you're going to have a much better experience with both the customer service that you get from them, but also with the reasonability of renewals, longer term leases, and overall, you're just going to have a much better experience with that. This person clearly doesn't know or doesn't have a mortgage because your mortgage can very well go up every year. In fact, it almost always does. While your principal and interest payment does not go up every year, as it's fixed for the life of your loan, other things that are bundled into your mortgage, like your insurance and property taxes, go up nearly every year. And guys, let me tell you, these increases can often be way more than what your rent would increase. If your rent increases $50 or $75 a month, your mortgage payment with your insurance, it can literally go up double that per month. Plus your property taxes go up with the value of your appraisal as it goes up. So if we do go in one of these big run-ups again where real estate values go up, guess what? Your property taxes are probably going to go up. Paying rent also does not cash flow. Get me tax write-offs. I still don't have leverage and I never own it. All the same problems, except I get no equity. Yeah, this whole like tax write-off thing, it's kind of a general misunderstanding, because while there are write-offs available for homeowners, most homeowners do not qualify for these home ownership tax write-offs, as most people, meaning like 9 out of 10 taxpayers, don't itemize their taxes. So guys, if you don't itemize your taxes, you can't write off your mortgage and interest. Everybody's like, oh, all the rich people that own homes get all these extra tax write-offs. Really not true, as most people don't qualify for these tax write-offs. And even if you did qualify for the write-off, you're only able to write off the interest. Again, that's not actually money back in your pocket. That's just potential money to be reduced off of your taxable income. So it's really like not that big of a savings, truthfully. You really can't compare the apples to apples of paying rent versus paying a mortgage, because whereas with your mortgage, you have a lot of unknown things that can happen. So you have to have cash and you have to have liquidity needed for that. Whereas if you're just paying a rent, let's say you have an extra couple $100s a month that you're not saving into a sinking fund to make repairs on your home, you should be investing that in, the stock market and then yielding cash flow appreciation on those assets, much more stable, much more reliable, without the unknown variable expenses that you could have in the future. You can have, for all intent and purposes, you could have a financial asset that's growing, guaranteed based off of you putting money into it. How much it's going to grow or, whatever over, 20 years, we don't know, but at least you're investing X number of dollars into a financial asset and it will grow. That is a guaranteed cash flow. It's just you don't know how much. Having your own home is the best feeling ever. Yeah, it is a very nice feeling. It does give you a sense of pride and, community involvement. Even there's a certain feeling you get from living in a community, being part of that community, owning a home. You can knock down a wall. You can do a lot of things that you can't do as a renter, but I wouldn't say it's the best feeling ever. Aren't we in the same spot? If we rent, no cash flow, we don't own it. As you can see from these comments, everybody's regurgitating the same thing. Rent's wasteful money. If rent and the mortgage is the same price, why would you ever rent if you could own? Most of these people, you can tell, are not as financially savvy as what I'm trying to help you become. You can't compare a $2,000 rent with a $2,000 mortgage. Why is that? Again, there are these hidden costs of owning a home that if you go into buying a house and don't foresee or plan for these things, you are going to get so caught off guard. You are going to end up hating being a homeowner. There is, mandatory HOA dues. There's bigger utility bills that come with being in a house versus being in a rental. There's your property taxes that can go up every year. There's your homeowner's insurance that can go up every year. There's the roof that needs to be replaced. There's so many things that will take so much of your hard-earned money that if you didn't have those things, you could be pumping all of these dollars into other investments that are going to yield actual appreciation over time.
This may sound mean, but I promise you I'm not trying to be mean. Some people are just not meant to be homeowners. And before I continue,
guys, and can you believe how shocking this is to hear coming from a realtor? Like that surprised me when I saw that.
I don't mean that not everyone deserves to have a home. Obviously, I believe everyone deserves to have a home. But what I do mean is that being a homeowner comes with certain risks, stressors, financially, mentally, that not everyone wants to deal with and or should be dealing with. I have had a few instances in my career where I have been working with buyers who on the exterior appeared to be very excited and motivated to purchase a home. More often than not, these clients are extremely inquisitive, have many questions, want to talk through many different scenarios, all of which I am so happy to do. Part of why I really enjoy my job is I get to help teach people understand things that I understand very well, and I enjoy that back and forth process, and it makes me feel good knowing I can help someone understand something that is stressful for them otherwise. But I have gotten to points with multiple buyers in my career where I had to be the one to cut off our relationship. If you're not familiar with how I make money, how I get paid, I do not make a dime until a deal closes. And in order for a deal to close, that means someone needs to buy or sell a home with me. Now, I work with some clients and it takes a year plus. Some clients it takes a few months. There's such a range of how long it takes to buy and sell a home. It really just depends. And so for people who do take longer, I always make it very clear to them that I want you to take your time. It's important to me that you feel good about the property you end up purchasing. I don't want you to settle. I don't want you to feel rushed. This is your journey and I am just along for the ride with you.
Guys, I'm going to cut it off right there because I think she's got her point across pretty well. While homeownership is great and it has a lot of feel-good benefits, not everybody is meant to be a homeowner. Not everybody is in a financial position to be a homeowner, I think is the main thing. If you want to be there, there are certain things that you need to do. And at the end of this video, I'm going to cover 3 things you must know in order to really be ready to buy a home. Some of these comments, my husband and I bought our house at 23. We were ready and excited, and then we realized how expensive it all is. Worth it for us, but it does suck to lose so much money. Our home was a fixer-upper, and we knew that, but wow, it's expensive. I know why people wait. I get it. Some people wait. Some people should wait longer. Some people regret their home purchases. That happens too all the time. I've wanted to own a home since I was 17. I'm 30 now, and I just closed. I'm very handy, a problem solver, and generally enjoy home projects. It's still hard work and mentally exhausting. Can't imagine how anyone who isn't inclined to be this type of person would get through home ownership. It's hard, but I'm still loving every moment. That's, I think, where you can easily draw the line is if you are handy and love home projects, then you're going to love all the aspects of owning a home, because there's a lot of maintenance and a lot of things that a homeowner has to do to keep up with their property and maintain it. Whereas if you don't enjoy those things or aren't handy or don't know how to do those things, and you either defer all that maintenance, your home is going to fall apart and actually lose value, or you're going to have to hire out all those maintenance items, and that's going to be so expensive that it's going to steal all of your extra money. I'm learning that I need to be patient about being ready to buy a house and not feel pressured to buy one because I'm at an age where other family and friends are buying them. I'm 32. 3 things you must know before buying a home, and they are: 1, a home is not automatically an asset. While people consider owning a home to be an appreciable asset, I need you guys to know that home prices are not guaranteed to go up. They don't always go up. Long periods of time in history where prices stayed the same over a decade or two. In general, home prices tend to go up, tracking a little bit over inflation, but it's not a guarantee. It's just like any other financial asset. Please don't buy a home thinking it's automatically going to go up. Number 2, profit takes longer than you might think. And by profit, I mean the amount of money you can make between your purchase price and your selling price of the home. Because of all the hidden costs, I'm going to get into some of those in detail, and I'm going to break down an example for you so it shows you some of the hidden things that are going to steal that profit from you and make it take much longer than you might think before you can earn that profit. Point number 3, renting can mean flexibility. When you buy a home, you are committing to be in that home for a minimum of 7 to 10 years. And with that, you lose a lot of flexibility in where you can live and the job and where you can work. Or if you value the ability to pick up things and move at a moment's notice or with relatively short notice, then renting is likely a value add to you because it has flexibility with shorter term leases that owning a home, you just don't get anywhere near that level of flexibility. You're not ready to buy a home. Homeownership can be really great, but only if you understand the real cost and the trade-offs between what you're getting and what you're losing. Guys, when you buy a home, it really acts more like a liability than an asset. It's a use asset, but it's also one that you're not getting cash flow from. So really all you're doing is putting money into it when you buy it. That's called a down payment. Then you're putting money into it with, your mortgage, your principal, your interest. Then you're putting more money into it with home repairs, renovations, capital expenditures for the roof and other major repairs and replacements. The whole time you've owned it, it's actually been a liability to you. Property taxes and insurance on the property. Why the just sell it later profit math is just usually either slightly wrong or very wrong, depending on how little you underestimate some of the hidden costs. Renting can be a very strategic choice. It gives you mobility and liquidity. Also the ability to, need less in fixed savings for your emergency fund / house sinking fund. Guys, in general, there is a major liquidity difference between buying a home and living in a rental. What I'm referring to is the opportunity cost of not renting, essentially. So if you buy, you're going to, let's say, shell out $50,000 plus for a down payment. If you chose not to buy and you took that cash, you could invest it in dividend paying stocks or the S&P 500, other financial assets that are going to yield you appreciation or interest. You are giving away your ability to earn cash flow on that money in the hopes of appreciation on this home. Guys, remember, a home is not automatically an asset. If it costs you money to hold it, it behaves like a liability. Even with a paid off house, you still pay for property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance and repairs. These are some examples: a roof, HVAC, plumbing. Guys, I need you to ask yourself this: just because you can afford to buy the home does not mean you can always afford to own the home and keep it for the long term. A lot of people, when they're in this emotional buying process, they see the price of this monthly payment and they see, oh, well, it's pretty close to what I was paying for rent. So yeah, I can afford it. And maybe it was just, slightly more. Then they move in, they get laid off at work, or they get their hours cut at work, or their spouse comes to be a stay-at-home mom. And then, you lose a big portion of your income. Take the other route and say, well, let's just say the property taxes and insurance went up for 3 straight years. And now your mortgage payment is $700 a month higher than when you bought it. Can you afford to keep the house for 30 years with all these costs going up, up, up? Whereas if you're in a rental and your landlord wants to raise the rent, either negotiate it or guess what? You are free to move on and find something else that still fits your budget. If you're in a house you own and with a mortgage, and your property taxes go up or your insurance goes up, guess what? You have no choice. You have no choice to not pay that. You can either sell your home. If you don't pay the increase of those fees and expenses, guess what? They will take your home. A lot of people want to be in the home that they chose to buy and live in, but then they get forced out because it becomes unaffordable later. Guys, here's an example of a $400,000 home with property taxes ranging. Again, that's going to vary wildly based on the state and county you live in, but for this price home, between $4,000 to $8,000 a year, insurance $1,200 and let's say $3,000 a year, maintenance average number they say is about 1% of your home value, so call about $4,000 a year. Big ticket surprises, $1,500 to $3,000. That's really not that much. Let's say if your roof needs to be replaced, that's more like a $10,000 to $20,000 hit. So these numbers are really, think about like the smaller things, like if your refrigerator goes out, oven quits working, or you have a little leak under the sink, or your toilet needs to be replaced, that's like $700. That's what these little things are. Guys, you got to budget for all these things. Otherwise, what you're considering as the mortgage payment is just a false sense of security, really, because all these things are going to be required. They pop up when you're least expecting it, and then they're going to force you to be in a situation where you can't afford your bills and you end up either house poor, really feeling strapped, or worse, you're forced to sell, take a loss in the house, and then you're back to square one, and now you feel way worse for it. Guys, number 2, profit takes longer than you think. Like some hidden profit killers when you sell are realtor fees between 4 to 6%. Closing costs. Yeah, did you know closing costs don't just happen when you buy a home, they also happen again when you sell it? Guys, if you've lived in a home for 5 or 10 years, chances are you're gonna have to put in like $5,000 to $10,000 just to get it ready to list. You're gonna have to spruce it up, maybe paint or do some minor fixes, little upgrades to make it like stage ready again. Most people never think about, when I go to sell, I'm probably going to need to have like $10,000 to spruce up the house to get it ready. While some home improvements do increase the value of your home, bathrooms, kitchens get, a higher percentage back, but a lot of things you never see any dollars back. So sinking all this cash into your home with the hopes of one day making a big profit, you could have taken all that money, invested it in, again, the S&P 500 or stocks or dividends or bonds, or could have paid off, your high interest credit cards or your student loans and gotten guaranteed returns. So the bottom line here is, while a lot of people make huge amounts of money in real estate, and real estate is a great path to become wealthy, it's not a guaranteed, and it can be a slow process. Renting can give you a lot of freedom that owning a home just can't give you. Flexibility to move for better job opportunities, predictable monthly costs, fewer surprise bills. You get liquidity and money's not being trapped in your home. You can have that cash sitting in your brokerage account or your bank account or a CD where you have access to it. Now, if you don't invest the difference, guys, all this like opportunity cost is all a moot point. You have to be smart. And if you're doing this consideration for real, anything that, you would factor in for home repairs or maintenance or, the insurance or property taxes going up, you have to then swing that money over and say, well, if I'm going to rent, then I'm going to invest all that money and actually build wealth. So that's where the opportunity cost really comes into play. And you just continue to pay your rent and not invest any of that extra money, then it's not going to turn out to be a better deal for you ever. If you understand these 3 points and you still feel like you're ready to buy a home, I need you to ask yourself these following questions. Do you have a true home budget that takes into account taxes, insurance, maintenance? Do you have an emergency fund after you put down your closing costs and your down payment? You can move into the house and then you could immediately have a needed home repair, and guess what? You got to put it on a credit card, or you got to stress out over not having any cash because you just spent it all. So after your down payment, after your closing costs, you need 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund. Could you handle a $5,000 to $10,000 surprise home repair bill? Are you planning to stay for at least 7 to 10 years? Otherwise, home appreciation is not a guaranteed thing. Last question is, if you were going to rent versus buy a home, would you actually invest invest the difference. Guys, I hope you've really enjoyed this video. If you have, would you please do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment below on what you think of my rent versus buy comparison. If you've recently bought or you're planning to buy, go ahead and leave it in the comments below how you feel about your experience. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.